Welcome back to What Arty Noobs with General Disturbance. This is the Bisonte C45. It's the Tier 8 Italian Premium Heavy Tank. It's located on the north spawn of Overlord and it's under the command of Magyver1970. Yes, he has sent in rather a large number of replays. I'm just bashing them out right now. Game on. Well, this is the heavy tank with the auto reloader. The only other one being the IS-3A, and it's also got spaced armour on the turret and the upper glacis of the tank, and I think you'll see that when you see the armour model. It's armed with a 90mm gun. Was it 105? I'm trying to remember. I think it's a 105 actually. Yes, it is a 105 caliber. It's got 360 alpha, which is actually fairly disappointing because you'd think with a 105mm gun it would actually be capable of 390, but I suppose they didn't want to give it too high a damage roll, because if they did then maybe it would rival the IS-3A. It's the first premium Italian tank that came into the game. It was one of the loot boxes and everybody wanted to get this tank on that particular Christmas because after all it was the sought after tank. Everyone wanted to try an auto reloader other than the Progetto. It was the first, I should actually qualify it actually, it is the first auto reloader heavy, not the first auto loader into the game. That was the Progetto. Oh, we missed the KV2 with that shot and he's only got one shell left. So 3-shot auto reloader. So now he's fired that one at the heavy tank number 6 and he managed to get some damage off him. That was the first one he did do some damage to. 297, which means it's a low roll. He's now got to wait for the 3 shells to reload, and the reloading sequence is supposed to be 16.3 seconds, then 14.38, then 11.51. So yes, if you only fire one shell, you load fairly quickly. If you fire all 3, you load a long time away. As you can see, he's finally getting that last shell in. It says 1187, so he has got a slightly faster reload for the last shell. In fact, actually it's showing 10.9 for the last shell, so that 11.87 must be for the second shell. So he's actually got a faster reload for the second, for the first one he fires than for the second. Now you get this weird beeping noise. You can probably hear it in the background, and I've never managed to work out why it beeps at everyone, because it seems to go, it's upper beep, you know, the higher tone beep, and the shell's still not loaded. You'd think that that upper tone beep was actually telling you you've loaded, you've got one in. Oh, woefully missed the box tank. That is dreadful. It does have good gun depression, this tank. That's one of the good things. 10 degrees of gun depression. It's it lacks turret weak spots as well, this tank, because of course it's got the spaced armour, which actually can be very helpful. And it's got a reasonable top speed for a heavy tank as well, 50 kilometers now. Not great fast, not like the tier 10 Soviet tanks, but he's got this Firefly now and he's out the game. But he did take a round, and that round came from the box tank. I wish he had actually killed that one now, because he lost 483, and that's a high roll for a box tank, because you know that one does 440. And he's trying to get a shot on the KV2 through the gates. Don't know if he got that one, but he's blown all well, he's blown all but one of his shells, and there's the box tank right now. Remember, 13cm gun, very high alpha. He can penetrate him, yes, he does get a pen, but it's a low roll for 331. He's got another shell available right now. He's getting way too close, but he fires that one in and he gets a hit, but it's another low roll, and he takes a hit from the KV2, but it's only into the tracks, so that's a good thing. In fact, the KV2 is firing APs, not firing armor pierce HE, and he finishes off the box tank, who was silly enough to push forward he must have thought, oh well, he's on reload, but yes, he did have one shell ready already, so that was a big mistake by the box tank, and now he's about to finish off that heavy tank number 6 if the KV2 doesn't fire an HE round at him. Now let it settle. Oh no, he didn't. In fact, he did fire rather quickly. He could go for a ram, but instead he decides to drive by to get the reload in and dodges a shell from the KV2, but takes one from the Hellcat instead. He's got behind the rock, but the heavy tank fires one into him, and yes, he gets penetrated by the 88mm. Now he's got two tanks with 88 or 90mm guns able to put holes in him, so he needs to get into cover quick before he gets hit again, and he's going to get hit by that Hellcat if he's not careful. He needs to get, yes, that's better, he's in defilade now. They can't hit him down here, not unless they come over the edge, and if they do come over the edge, ooh, that KV2 tried to get around him and failed. Okay, it'll be interesting to see if that Hellcat decides to come over the edge. He will come a cropper if he does, but you see, the thing is, now MacGyver is down to just 7 hit points from taking all those rounds from the heavy tank and from the Hellcat. He's trying to go for the E25. He's got 2 shells available. There's one. Go for the kill shot, and he doesn't take the kill, but he does take the kill on the KV2, and now he's got 3 kills in this game with only 3 enemies remaining. So he took a chance there because he only had 7 hit points left. If one of them had penetrated or one of them had used HE, he would have come a cropper. Oh, Star 2 didn't like seeing the heavy tank number 6. Heavy tank's coming in for the kill. Oh! And the Barras gets blown out of existence. But we've got 1 shell available, and the heavy tank number 6 is coming down, and oh yes! 2 more kills! And wins the game, taking out the heavy tank number 6. Wow, that was interesting. Right at the end, saved his life. Here's the end of battle stats, and that was the first class tanker for MacGyver1970 in the Bisonte C45. He managed to get a duelist for taking down 2 tanks who damaged him, a fighter badge for getting at least 4 kills. He ended up with 5, 1/3 of the enemy team and 1 short of a Top Gun. He got a fire for effect for doing more damage than the hit points for his own vehicle, and a shell proof for blocking more damage than the hit points for his own vehicle. He also got a Spartan for a non-penetrating shot when he had less than 10% of his hit points remaining, a steel wall for blocking at least 11 shots and at least 1,000 hit points of damage, blocking the most damage in the game, as well as a high caliber for dealing the most damage in the game on the enemy. Let's have a look at team score. Well, there he is, highest damage with 3,491 hit points. The next highest score was the Star 2, who unfortunately made a big mistake trying to go up onto the plane. Well, he was trying to get shots at the heavy tank number 6, who was getting rather close, but it was actually the Barask who was the one, I think, who actually finished him off. At least we can check that. It was Black Alex, whatever his name is the guy who killed him. And Alex, if we look on here, is that the Barask on the enemy team? Where are you? There you are. Yes, it is. It was the Barask who got him in the end. But then the good thing is that MacGyver managed to finish off the Barask with 1 shot immediately afterwards. And he still had a shot spare to deal with the heavy tank number 6 because it's an auto reloader. So yes, he definitely got the highest damage in the game. The 3rd highest damage in the game actually goes to the GSOR 1008 on the enemy team with 1,871. He just beat the box tank on our team with 1,857. When it came to kills, it's MacGyver again. He got 5 kills in that game. 4 kills went to the E25 on the enemy team. 3 kills went to the VK3601H. And when it came to base XP, yes, he's got that one as well, because he got 1,288. He's the only player to get over 1,000 base. The next highest being the Star 2 with 937, and the box tank managed 822. MacGyver fired 18 rounds, but he only got 13 hits on the enemy and 12 penetrations. Damage of 3,491 hit points, of which 310 were at more than 300 meters. So most of the damage he did was at close range. 13 hits received from the enemy, only 5 of which actually penetrated, but he did get holed by the heavy tank and that Hellcat far too often, and that's what stripped away his hit points. Plus, of course, he got hit by that box tank, and that took a huge amount of hit points away. 8 non-penetrations during that game, and he blocked damage of 2,590 hit points. 3 enemy vehicles spotted, 6 enemy vehicles damaged, 5 killed, 230 hit points of damage assistance. He earned 72,478 credits from the game, and after repair, ammunition resupply took away 83,842 credits because he played with standard ammo, and it worked. 1,288 XP, times 2 for the first victory, 3,864 from personal missions payout, and 193 for this being a premium vehicle, took away 7,921 experience points altogether. Let's have a look at the armour for this vehicle. Well, yes, this is where it looks kind of colourful, doesn't it? It's, yeah, the fact that you've got all this blue, that is the spaced armour on this vehicle. Take away the tracks, forget about the tracks for a second. Just look at all that spaced armour on the upper glacis. It's huge, it's masses of it. The spaced armour is 20 millimeters thick, 2 centimeters thick, and beneath that the upper plate is also fairly thick. You can see as I'm varying it around there. Sometimes it's 135 millimeters thick, sometimes it's 165 millimeters thick. You can see that various thickness there. Even at the thinnest, it's around about 90 millimeters thick on the upper plate. And with the spaced armour as well, that makes the effective armour a lot higher, because look, it's 190 millimeters, and even if I'm looking straight at it, it's still around 190. So it's very difficult to penetrate the upper plate unless you know where the spaced armour is not. Because you can see here, I'm looking here at 120 millimeters with the effective armour 180. So obviously this will block a heat round at the upper glacis very nicely, that spaced armour. It really does have a good effect. And it's not just on the upper glacis, it's on the turret too. Look, 2 centimeters spaced armour with 150 millimeters and 185 millimeters there at the front. So yes, it's very heavy armour, not what you'd expect, because normally the Progetto is fairly lightly armoured, but the Bisonte C45 is very heavily armoured, but it is a heavy tank, but it's a lot more heavily armoured than most people think. The weakest spot to aim for is these driver's ports. You can see here where it's 0 impacted armour. You should be able to pen straight through that area there. You can go for the lower plate, it's fairly thin here as well. If you're aiming at the lower plates, 80 millimeters impacted armor, but with the angling it goes up. So depending on which round you're using at tier 8, you should be able to penetrate the lower plate. On the sides, you can see this way, because it's spaced armor on the sides of the vehicle as well, the actual thickness of the side armor is 75 millimeters, but there's 6 millimeters of spaced armor, and in here you've got 3 layers. There's 6 millimeter, 20 millimeter, and the 75 as well, meaning the effective armor on the side of the tracks is 120 millimeters with that angling, 100 millimeters without the angling. The best place to aim is actually here, just on the shoulders of the hull, because there it's only 75 millimeters thick and it's slab-sided, so yes, you go straight through, but it's a very narrow target to aim for. And I guess the only other place you can aim for is just below the skirt and into the hull where it's 75 millimeters, but it's fairly well protected on both the sides of the turret as well. Look at that, 80 millimeters of impacted armor, 20 millimeters of spaced. You ended up with 105.5 millimeters on the side of the turret. And of course the spaced armor is going to defeat the heat rounds, as I said. Looking at the rear, it's very thin. 30 millimeters on the rear of the tank, the engine deck 20 millimeters, so Arty rounds should be able to penetrate through if they're coming in from above. Rear of the turret 50 millimeters, and on top of the turret 30 millimeters thick. Yes, just like they're finding out in Ukraine at the moment, top armor of tanks is very thin, and it doesn't matter how many little boxes you put on top to say that it's explosive reactive armor. Yes, a missile warhead, a big heavy heat round is just going to go straight through as if there's nothing there and wipe out whatever's inside the tank. So that's the armor profile, very strong indeed. Let's have a look at the modules. And there are none. Yes, because I'm afraid Wargaming have not handed out the module disposition, so we can only guess where some of the people are. We know, for instance, that there's driver behind these mirrors here, so the driver's sitting in the centre behind all that spaced armour on the upper glacis, so he's going to be safe. We also can see a vision port up here on the turret, so we know that there's the gunner on the left hand side of the turret as we're looking at it, and there's more cupolas behind that. There's more viewports in a cupola behind that. It's not a cupola you can hit because it's actually non-existent. It's actually a flat cupola, so to speak, or flat hatch I should say, not a cupola, which means that we know that the commander of the tank is behind the gunner on the left hand side. We can only suppose that the loader is on this side of the hull, at least that's what we would suppose, and we don't know where the ammo racks are, but it's very likely that there's an auto reloader mechanism, which means that there will be shells in this area of the tank feeding into the gun itself. I actually, come to think of it, there wouldn't be a loader in this tank at all, would there? Because unless of course he's there to feed the shells into the auto loader or auto reloader mechanism. So we don't know where the ammo racks are. We know that the engine is at the back and the transmission will be there as well. Fuel tanks probably either side, but that's about all we can guess at the moment because Wargaming have not handed out the module layout, and I don't think they will. And of course that means that it's much more difficult to try and kill one of these by going for a specific spot to try and do some damage. All you know is where the driver is, the commander and the gunner, and that's it. So I hope you enjoyed that replay, and if you did, please give the video a like, do subscribe to our channel, leave a little comment down below because it feeds the algorithm, and of course please do let other people know that we're giving all of the revenue to the Red Cross Ukraine appeal, so the more of our videos they watch, the more money they'll be sending. So if you want to give money to the refugees, then please do watch our channel or put our channel on auto cycle on, so it just continuously plays, and of course the more videos that get watched, then the more money we send to the Red Cross. Thanks for watching.